There's an ancient legend that is told about a young woman who died and was stopped at the gates of heaven. Her life was anything but exemplary, and she was told that she would have to return to earth and bring back the gift that God valued the most, and then she would be admitted into heaven. Upon her return to earth, she witnessed a young man who was being martyred for the faith. She thought, this is the gift. This is the gift that God would appreciate most. And so she took a drop of his blood and brought it back to the gates of heaven, where she was told, that's valuable, but not the most valuable. She was sent back, and this time she came across an old missionary who was laboring in a foreign land. Day in and day out, he preached the word, trying to get converts for Christ. This complete dedication to God must be the most valued gift. So she gathered a few drops of the missionary's sweat from his brow and returned to heaven. While the gift was valued, it was not the prize that was sought. Again and again she returned with no success, until one day she came across a little child looking into a pond of water. And at the same time, an old man walked by and looked into the pond of water. And the contrast between the two reflections was remarkable. You had youth and innocence on the one hand, and then the old man saw a face that was wasted away from the lifestyle that he had lived, and he wept. The woman took the tear from this man and brought it to heaven. And this was the gift. This was the gift that was most pleasing to God, the tears of a repentant sinner, the recognition of the need one has for God's mercy. That ancient legend and the parable about the prayers of the Pharisee and the tax collector really have the same purpose. The underscoring of how pleasing our prayer is when we recognize how much we need God's mercy and love. The Pharisee wasn't doing anything wrong. In fact, he was doing lots that were right. He was observing the law, fasting, giving money to charity, and so forth. What was wrong was that he failed to see how much he depended on God for his justification. He tried to justify his own salvation. In his now famous interview, Pope Francis was asked, who is Hoye Bergoglio, his baptismal name? And the Pope paused and then said, I am a sinner who is loved by God. People thought that was kind of an unusual response, but it's precisely the lesson of today's gospel. The point of the parable and the legend is that the first sign of progress in the spiritual life is to recognize the need that we have to undergo a lifelong process of conversion, a lifelong process of recognizing God taking the initiative to love us and our imperfect response to that love. Our prayer today needs to include an honest assessment of our life. Perhaps our prayer this day could conclude with the phrase, "O God, be merciful to me, a sinner."